Welcome to She's the Boss, the podcast where female wellness entrepreneurs talk ambition, money, and ownership out loud. I'm your host, Lee McSwan, a certified holistic nutritionist turned wellness business coach. This is where conversations are unfiltered, the rules of entrepreneurship get rewritten, and nothing is off limits. Money, motherhood, friendships, legacy, wealth, power, and what it really takes to build a life and business on your terms. A quick pause and an ask for you to picture this. $10,000 lands in your account this month, and you didn't add a single session to get there. No extra clients, no longer days, no convincing yourself to say yes to one more person you don't really want to work with because you need the numbers to work. Just the business you already have finally structured so the math works in your favor instead of against it. That feeling, calm, certain, like you finally own something instead of just running on it. That's what changes when your offers are built properly. I put the entire structure of this into one handy resource for you. The offers, the pricing, the forecast, all of it to get you to your 10K month. It's called the 10K month ecosystem map and it's completely free. Grab it. It's linked in the show notes. And let's get back to the episode. Today's guest went from training as a professional actress to navigating a full spiritual and mental health breakdown. And instead of quietly recovering, she built a business out of it. Ciara Waterfield is a self-love mentor and the founder of Compassionate Awakened Living. And she works with women who are ready to stop performing okayness and actually start living it. In this episode, we get into her origin story, how she built offers that meet women exactly where they are, from on-demand mini courses all the way through to 6-month transformational containers. And the conversation I think you're really going to appreciate is the honest, unglamorous truth about how long it can take to embody self-love, not the highlight reel version, the real one. This one is equal parts business and soul. I can't wait to share it with you. Ciara, welcome to She's the Boss. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm just doing fantastically, Lee. Thank you so much for having me here. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You are joining us from the UK, so it is late afternoon / early evening for you. What are your plans for the rest of the evening after we finish recording?
Oh, so my partner actually works away. So this is going to be the first time that we've seen him all week, my daughter and I. So I'm going to take my daughter back from my mum, who's currently looking after her for me. And we're going to go home and just have a lovely little bit of dinner. I'll probably have a catch up with him about his week, what's been going on, and then do a bit of gratitude journaling and head to bed.
Oh, amazing. It's the perfect Thursday evening, right? I love that.
All right, super chilled.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Not even just weekday, that's my favorite evening on the weekends as well. Grab the journal, get cozy at home, make a great meal, and just like hang out and chill. It's the best. So let's get into a bit of your story. One thing that I found so interesting about you is that you trained as a professional actress before becoming a self-love mentor. That's not necessarily what I would consider like a linear path. But walk me through the moment that you realized the pivot wasn't just personal, it was the actual business and the way that you wanted to grow your career as a professional.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, I knew from such a young age that I wanted to be an actress. And initially it started as something that I just loved. It was my inner child's way of totally expressing myself and being the most radiant version of me and having the most creative and fun time. And somewhere along the way, it got mixed up with the habits, the patterns, the beliefs that I started to adopt, as we all do as we grow up, from our primary caregivers, what we see in the world, what we learn to be acceptable or not acceptable. And it became a little bit murky for me. So rather than being something that I just adored and wanted to do because that is what lit me up, it became something that I realized I could get applause from. And I'd get to the end of a performance, I could get through the entire thing not being myself. I could be a totally different person for the entire hour, 2 hours of the performance, and then people would love me. Bit of context, I had a pattern of being a chronic people pleaser and also chronically anxious. So being able to be confident not being myself and being able to be confident and then get someone to love me at the end, oh my goodness, it was like a double whammy. So it got really quite murky. between I just love this and this is actually something that I'm doing to fuel this unsatisfied part of me. I went off to study at 16, so really young. And even though I believe that your path is your path, and that's fantastic, I wouldn't change my path at all. I'd do it again and again to be where I am now. I do think with the more logical mind on that was too young for me to go, because I was still so super impressionable, but I was so forthright, and my mum and my dad wanted to support me no matter what. So they said, yeah, off you go. If you get in, we'll help you as much as you can, see if you can help us with the funding and all that kind of stuff, and away you go. And it was a pretty cutthroat environment. As you may have heard, it is very much like what people hear. It's very competitive. For lack of a better word, there are lots of drama queens about acting solely from their egos. I was one of them. It was very complicated an environment for me to be in from such a young age. And I was very vulnerable. I've always been a very sensitive person, so I took a lot of that on. And I left in 2017 after 3 years of training. Loved a lot of it, but again, as I said, took on a lot of these detrimental patterns, particularly about how I saw my body. I very much lived in the mind to try and combat everything that I was feeling in my physical. I disassociated entirely from my body. So ended up kind of running around as a floating head, but not really realizing that's what I was doing. And it came to 2019, late 2019, after I'd had a couple of years working. I'd had some really great opportunities, really great jobs. I was really feeling like I was getting into my stride. A fantastic agent had picked me up from a show I'd just done. So I was thinking, oh, this is amazing. This is me living the dream. I ended up being with a guy at that point in time that I thought, yeah, this is great. I feel like I really love him. I just turned 21, August 2019, and started to slowly become a little bit more aware of those habits and patterns that I'd picked up along the way. Noticing ways that I responded to my boyfriend at the time, thinking, well, that's a bit of an exaggerated way to respond to that very minor thing that he just did. And started to notice a few things within my body that didn't sit right, that disassociation that I was talking about. But nothing prepared me for the day when I literally woke up to myself in what seemed like one go. 27th of October 2019, and I just absolutely, became awake and aware of everything that I had been holding on to, the patterns, the struggles, the beliefs, all of it. And it led to a period of sinking really, really deep into this chronic anxiety. It ended up with me being suicidally depressed and having horrific intrusive thoughts. And I had one aha moment, which was the pivot into this work, the pivot into this world for myself, which was 6 months into this awakening experience, literally feeling like I was going mad. These horrific thoughts bombarding my head, this existential fear bubbling up in my body continuously. I was contemplating my suicide, and my heart said, don't. You're going to help other people do this someday. You have to find a way out of this. Don't do it, keep moving forward. It felt like divine intervention. I feel like it was my higher self speaking to me, and I was like, okay, fine. And that was the breakthrough that led to me starting this work for myself. So it began with yoga, meditation, really sinking deep into that side of the practice, that side of the spiritual lens, I suppose, the spiritual world. And then I opened up a little bit more, specifically after this relationship that I was in ended, into self-love work, realizing that I had no idea who I was because I'd constantly been allowing everyone else to validate me, sourcing my happiness from every other place in the world other than myself. So I ended up moving into lots of psychology, also different spiritual practices, classic self-care, all kinds of self-love, intuitive dance. And it came to 2022. After having this journey for myself. And I took the leap from performing. I was kind of straddling the worlds at that point in time, still with my agent, still trying to build my business, and then doing another job whilst I was auditioning and trying to build my business at the same time. And it was a very specific situation. Cutting a long story short, there was an audition that I went for, and I got quite a few rounds through this audition. And I'd kind of been thinking I need to make the pivot soon. And I got a few rounds through this audition. And I never got a response back from the casting director to say that I didn't get it. Not an email, nothing. Radio silence. And my agent prompted and said, oh, we'd quite like to hear whether she's got it, or, is she going to move through? She's penciled in the dates. Nothing. And I sat there and I thought, do you know what? I think this is a bit of a sign. I don't want to be within an industry that values people like that.
Right.
And I've learned so much from this journey. Let's now take the plunge to really fully, truthfully share what it is that I've learned, because I would feel selfish if I didn't. Everything that I'd learned had transformed the way that I live so much, literally saved my life. So that was it. 2022, away we went into working in this way of living, this way of teaching, this way of sharing. Kind of full time. I was with another job at that point in time, but that was the step away from performing.
Wow, that's so impressive. So you would have been 21 when you started recognizing these patterns and the reactions that you were having with your boyfriend at the time, having what you described as a reaction to a minor issue. You were 21? Mm-hmm.
Yes, I didn't expect that for my 21st birthday, to be honest. Right. I was like, 21st birthday, spiritual awakening. Woo! Not really on my list, but I'm so pleased it happened now.
What were some of those patterns that you were seeing continuously coming up and really presenting themselves specifically in the relationship?
One of them that was massive was extreme codependency, to the point where no matter the length of time between receiving a text from him and then me sending one back, in that limbo space between him sending back a text, I would be perpetually scared. My body would be racing and racing and racing and racing and it would get worse and worse and worse the longer the text went along, the longer he left to reply. And let's be real, people have lives. Like, he's more than allowed to go out and live his life and reply to a text when he wants to reply to a text. But my body would just get more and more fearful. And then as the text would come in, this crashing like relief, which I thought was love and excitement, I now know it was cortisol, adrenaline really ramping up, and then that crash coming down. It was almost like, the best way to describe it, as weird as this is, was like an orgasmic feeling of like this relief of, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
He's actually replied to me. I'm safe. I'm not going to be abandoned. So that was a very heavy one. The second one mainly was people pleasing. So shape-shifting myself, my thoughts, my opinions, my beliefs to be what he wanted, or what I thought he wanted.
Yeah.
He was the right person for me to be moving through this awakening with at this point in time, because he actually didn't demand anything of me. He didn't push back with the people pleasing habit. I was just kind of doing it and fueling it myself, and then noticing, oh, hang on a minute, I don't need to be doing this. And it feels so unaligned. It feels so sticky in myself to be turning away from who I know I truly am in order to appease and get a certain response. It feels very manipulative. That was the first time when I was like, I think this is manipulation, as well as it being something that I'm trying to survive myself.
Wow, that takes a lot of self-awareness. And at such a young age, I think there's people that go decades without having the level of self-awareness that you had at the ripe old age of 21. But you have been very open about that dark period in your life where there was suicidal anxiety and depression. And that's a really heavy topic to build a brand around. How did you decide that you wanted to share this publicly, and how has that vulnerability shaped the kind of clients that get to come into your world?
So I will really credit here my first ever mentor that I had during this period of time. So 2020, when the world internally imploded itself, that was the crux of my own awakening. And I went on my yoga teacher training and met a fellow yoga teacher, fantastic teacher and mentor called Catherine Gallagher. And she's a dear friend of mine now as well. Actually, our daughters are friends and we see each other regularly. So it's lovely. I joined her Empower program and really started to, for the first time, go into what it actually meant to be an entrepreneur. And I'd never really thought of myself as that. Like, especially when I started just teaching yoga and earning a bit of cash for a side hustle, I was like, it was to fuel my acting career at that point in time. I'd never really considered being an entrepreneur. And she said, and I hadn't totally moved, well, I definitely hadn't moved out of the darkness by this point. I was still feeling very, very anxious within my body. But within this program, she said the best thing that you can possibly share with the world is your story, because it's wisdom like no other. It's embodied. It's something that you've actually experienced yourself. There's no one more qualified to move through that journey with other people than somebody who's actually walked through that path themselves. And that always stuck with me. And it's it still feels like such a taboo thing to talk about, like intrusive thoughts. I think a lot of people hear that word and think, oh, you must be mad, or there must be something wrong with you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you whatsoever. There was nothing wrong with me. It was just that I had drifted so far from who I was, and I hadn't learned how to shape and create my own internal world to then manifest it into my external world. So that's where the intrusive thoughts were coming from. Just me letting my mind run absolutely rampant with this fuel within that was the trauma and the patterns and the beliefs and the habits that were held on to. So it was that alone that I thought, you know what, there's really something here. And I feel like I'm definitely not the only person. Well, I know I'm definitely not the only person to have gone through something like that. I was lucky that I had a few people around me. My mum had her spiritual awakening quite a few years before, so she kind of knew what was happening, kind of knew where to direct me. A few other people knew kind of what way to push me in. Without that, I don't know what would have happened to me.
Wow.
And I thought, well, if I can be that, even if somebody just stumbles across my page without even coming into my world and experiencing what it is that I offer, everything that I offer is what I've used myself to come out of this point in time. But if I can be that for somebody else, then that's why I'm doing it. That's why I'm sharing this mission. Mm-hmm. So it was more of somebody very wise told me that was the best way to help others. And so far it has been the case. And the women that do come into my spaces very much resonate with that personal story, with the specific that I've told in an Instagram post, or, oh my goodness, I've seen what it is that you're going through. I feel so disconnected with my body. I know that I want to work with you because of the way that you've iterated this to me. So being that truthful and that bold in what it is that I'm sharing has meant that it filters out the people who it's not for, because it is a very specific experience in some ways, but it calls in just the right women into my world. I feel like I've been very fortunate that I have been gifted that kind of story and gifted that kind of experience, which is a mad thing to say because I wouldn't have thought that at the time.
It makes sense though. And I was going to ask you now knowing what you know and doing the work that you do, would you say that dark period in your life was a blessing in disguise?
100%. 100%. I would go through it again and again and again to know what I know now, which is, a lot of people might listen and go, well, how can you say that you'd want to go through that phase of, wanting to take your own life and feeling so bombarded with all of that? But I would have either not been here without that period in time and that transition. It would have got to a point where maybe that would have been it. Or I would have carried on. I said this actually to a client yesterday. What we think is really uncomfortable and is taking a really long time is actually a fraction of our lives compared to what it is that we're going to live. And would I rather be in that sense of discomfort for a fractional period of time, for a short period of time, and then on the other side feel well and happy and healthy and healed in the way that I have now with my entire life stretching ahead of me? Or do I want to just prolong this continual discomfort? and live in that and wallow in it for the rest of my life. So, you know, in terms of the grand scheme of things, what we think is a really difficult period of time and we feel like is lasting forever is not forever. But on the other side of that is something so much more magical and so much more rich and so much more abundant than what we're living in at that point of time if we're brave enough to walk through it.
Yeah, and that was my next kind of question to you, is around that bravery piece. What, in your experience or in your expertise, would you say is the reason that some people have this ability to change that trajectory and realize that they're wallowing, and like some people never get out of that? They literally live their whole lives, or worse, they do end up taking their lives because they can't move out of it. So what do you see as the characteristics of the women that are able to move out of it versus the ones that just are still so trapped in it?
For me, my instinctual thing, and I feel like this is such a foundational pillar of self-love work, self-development work. This is actually the very first pillar of self-love in my framework that I've created. And for me, it's having that heightened sense of awareness. And it is something that can be cultivated. It's not something that's just bestowed upon you. As I said, like for me, it was that one day where I woke up and it was like, oh my goodness, I'm aware of everything. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be gradual. If you are taking the time to be aware of yourself, to be aware of those habits, those beliefs, that feeling that feels like you're wallowing in it and you're sitting in it, awareness creates the gap, the buffer between the experience that you're having, which is not who you are. It's just the experience. It is an amalgamation of everything that you have accumulated up until that point in time within your hard drive, within your subconscious and your body. You create that buffer by bringing awareness in. So it's the step back. It's the, okay, this is what I'm experiencing. And that first initial part is so hard. I will not sugarcoat it. Oh my goodness, it's so hard to sit and find that awareness in the literal pits, like the depths of your despair. But if you can just separate yourself, I think that's the reason why I heard my heart say what it said. Because up until that point, everything was so chaotic. And so my mind just was consistently moving 24/7 with everything that I didn't want to hear or look at. And in that moment of contemplation, there was silence. And that's why I heard my heart drop in. So creating that awareness, creating that space, that silence lets us hear the things that are actually us and create the distance from the things that aren't. I really, truly believe that that's the first foundational thing that every single human being on this planet should be doing is cultivating some kind of awareness practice to get that initial leg up. And then everything else that you employ from then on is what gets the wheels really, really turning. But that's the first piece, the awareness.
Yeah, I love that. And what I'm hearing from what you're saying is basically just find some time to be quiet, to remove yourself from the chaos, whether that's the internal turmoil that's going on or being in a chaotic environment. It's like give yourself that buffer time so that you can tune out all the noise that's happening and just get back into your body and into your heart and just listen to what is coming up. I really admire what you had just touched on, which is the framework that you've created. And your programs are literally birthed out of what you use to help you get to this place that you are at right now, which is just pure happiness and joy and just truly loving yourself and your work and the people that you get to help. And what I love so much is that when people have stories like yours, where they were like, I was in my shit. I was suffering so hard. And then I got through it. And now I'm going to take you along the journey that I went through. And you have such a beautiful offer suite, which we're going to talk about in a bit, but you work across some really cool modalities and you have a really unique methodology. You've got inner child healing, people pleasing, working with anxiety and self-confidence. Those are kind of like your four main entry points. How do you stop that from becoming a brand identity problem? This is something that I think a lot of people struggle with, is when they've created these things for specific people, they aren't really sure how to plug people in at the right step into the right program. So how would you help a client figure out what they actually need in order to start working with you?
Really great question. So everything within my offer suite has been designed as an ecosystem. So before we hit record, I mentioned to you that you could enter in at any point and then transition into another offer, regardless of price point, regardless of how long that is, because they all work with one another. And the beauty, I suppose, of the experience that I've been gifted, and I think a lot of people's experience as well, or I feel a lot of people's experience, is that everything was interconnected anyway. Mm-hmm. So I had an incredibly wounded inner child. That's what meant that I was people pleasing. People pleasing, we now know, is a survival response. I was chronically anxious because I was people pleasing. So I constantly outsourced my happiness elsewhere. And it led to me going, whoa, why? Why am I not enough? Why am I not enough as just being me? And then the self-love piece is what I believe. Self-love touches every single area of your life. You know, you cannot avoid it. And how you love yourself is very evident from how you show up in different areas. So that's why I call myself a self-love mentor, because everything that I do, regardless of if it looks like it's totally unrelated to self-love, no, it's all self-love. It's all self-love, because if you are allowing your love to leak from a certain area of your life, if you are not valuing yourself and holding yourself accountable in a specific area, that's not you loving yourself as well as you possibly could. So when it comes to helping women understand where it is that they are at, it's very much, where are you curious? Because I think our intuition often leads us somewhere, even if we don't know it. If a woman's coming into my world and is going, I'm noticing that you're talking a lot about the inner child. I've never worked with the inner child before, but I feel like there's a part of me that needs igniting, that needs a little bit more excitement. I very much talk about the inner child rather than it being a healing process. I talk about it as a remembering process, because let's face it, nobody holds a baby, looks at a baby and goes, cool, that baby's evil, that baby's got something wrong with it. Nobody does that. Like, we were born perfect, we were born whole, we were born as close to our soul's essence as we possibly could be. So it's about remembering that. So if a woman comes in with that kind of curiosity, I'll talk her through exactly what is in the offer. Okay, I think this could be really right for you. Also, an inner child mechanism is people pleasing. Is that something that you've experienced? Let's see if we can bring that in, because the two would really complement one another. So quite often it's led by the client's curiosity and where they're at and what they're drawn to. And then everything will open up from there anyway. I feel like maybe you can relate to this, that once we take a step into personal development, spirituality, self-love, whatever umbrella term you give it, it's like everything comes in then, and you're like, oh my gosh, I like this, and I love this, and I love human design, and I love astrology, and I love all these different things. And I feel like that's what happens when you start to open up all these different sides of yourself. So initially it's led by that client curiosity, but everything has been designed to link and interconnect and piece that ahas together from one program to the next, so that nothing is just standalone. Okay, you do this and then you do this and then you do this. It will all work within your life in one capacity or another, with different areas of understanding.
Okay, I love that flow, because the curiosity piece is something I never actually really considered. It's like, what are you naturally drawn towards? That's the thing that you actually really need to be working on right now. This is a little bit different from how I structure and how I teach my clients to structure their offer suites, because I look at things as an ascension path. But what you're saying, and this is the beauty of having your own holistic entrepreneurial journey, is you get to shape things however they make sense for you, but also for your client, because no two businesses are the same. And I just love how you've positioned that, because it's just so, there's so much flow to it, right? And just being in that flow state and getting your clients into that flow state, that's actually how we really start to build up some self-trust, is like, you were led here because of this thing that was calling out to you. This is the work that we're going to start with. And you're right. As soon as it's like Pandora's box, you take one little like human design assessment, you look at that chart and you're like in the trenches, you're down the rabbit hole. And I love it so much, not like as a diagnostic tool, but as just this curiosity piece of how can I make things easier for myself? How can I create more flow within my day as a mom, as a wife, as an entrepreneur, as a friend, as a daughter, as a sister, like whatever it is, it always helps us develop into our highest selves, our most peaceful, joyful, happy selves as well too. So I just had to share, like, I love that so much. And it's such a great reminder to me as well too, to like, I think my type A's a lot, and seeing that you're just like, well, I just let the people be curious and they come into that actually just makes so much logical sense in what some people would be like, that's a chaotic offer suite, but I love it so much. And I think just this is more permission for the entrepreneurs out there that you get to create whatever you're creating in a way that you want. Like there's no hard and fast rules with entrepreneurship. But let's talk about your signature flagship 6-month container, Dating Your Soul. We're going to leave this linked in the show notes as well too. I want to ask you, what's the business logic behind building something that long and that high touch? So many people are thinking about quick, shorter term containers or offers and mini minds and stuff like that. So why did you decide to do something for half a year?
To be absolutely brutally honest, that's how long it takes, minimum.
Yes.
I have to be truthful about that. I have to be honest. I didn't just quantum leap overnight into this wonderful, radiant, juicy, alive, vivacious version of myself. It took time. It took time. And that's something that honestly, I feel like is lacking sometimes within spaces. Don't get me wrong. I have offers in my office suite that are short, for the Inner Ally Mini Method. That's a 45-minute long program with a few journal prompts, a few exercises, a few rituals. So you can just pick it up, package it, take it away. Great. There's a few that are a little bit longer. So if that's what's for you right now, then great, go for it. But I feel like we're not as honest as we should be about how long it takes for a lot of people to really truthfully integrate and embody what it is that you are actually learning. And to understand it on a nervous system level, to understand it on a bodily level. Coming from a place of being chronically anxious and feeling so much overwhelm, I was like, well, I can't just give them all of this content and it just be the most overwhelming experience. You know, there has to be space to integrate. There has to be time for questions to come up and for that marinating process to happen. And there has to be a storyline. Like, it was so important for me that there was this continuous through line running through every single module, that one would link to the next and the next and the next, like an unfolding, like an unveiling of the program as you went along. I must say it was purely honesty. That was the reason that I built a program like that, with close proximity and the length that it is, because I would be lying. It wouldn't be truthful if I said, okay, you can do this in this amount of time. Maybe you can. Maybe someone in the world has done it. I don't know. Find them. But for me, I didn't. And I have to be truthful about that progression. But also the beauty of it is that Dating Your Soul, when you join the live experience, because there is also an on-demand experience that's 3 months long, but that has no contact time with me. That's just the embodiment practices, the recorded module packs. When you do join Dating Your Soul for the 6 months, it's a community of women. So everyone is on that journey. Exactly. It is so necessary. It's one of my mentors, Aistia Nandi, it says it's a feminine superpower community. That is one of our superpowers, being in community. And we've been extracted from that so much within our lives. You know? So having that time to get to know everybody in the space, really have the time to digest others' opinions, because, you know, we all have this gorgeous innate wisdom within us. It's not unique to me. It's not unique to, people standing on stages. We all have this beautiful divine wisdom, the inner teacher within us. So that 6 months also gives time for the other women to step forward, to give their opinion, give their experience. Actually, I found that when I was practicing, I prefer it like this. Great. That might affect somebody else within the container. And they think, oh yeah, I want to take that on board. The whole thing is designed to be an experience, not just something, because self-love is like that. Self-love isn't something you just pick up and put down when you feel like you need it. It's something that continues to evolve and shape and be this underlying hum through our lives. That's exactly what I wanted dating your soul as an experience to be, which is another one of the reasons why it's the length and the heftiness that it is, like a good hefty book.
Yeah, but that makes sense. And this is what I want the listeners to tap into and understand, is that so many people often create their offers backwards, and you didn't. And I'm going to explain this in a second. But so often before we think about the experience and the transformation that is going to happen by the time somebody goes through our container, we're not thinking about that first. We're thinking about how we want to hold it. We'll think, okay, we'll just throw out an arbitrary timeline, like an 8-week mastermind. And then we'll think, okay, well, we'll do 3 calls a month, and then we'll have like a private Facebook group. We think about all those logistics first. And this is just human nature, right? Like, we like the details and stuff like that. Thinking about what the client is getting through that transformation, who she becomes at the end of the transformation, and then reverse engineering. Okay, well, what does the structure look like? Okay, got the structure. She has to go through these steps first. And then what does that container need to be in order for her to get through those steps to get her end result? That's actually how you structure an offer properly. And you did that. Like, you realized 6 months is how long it takes. And I also have a 6-month offer too. And I love it so much because you get to go so deep with people. And like you said, the women build friendships. It's so much bigger than just the thing that you're, as the facilitator, putting out. It's all the extra stuff that comes together when women are in community. Like, never before have we needed to be in community more, when so much of our lives are automated, they're virtual. And having even just that virtual community, it does lead to in-person stuff. Like, there's so much that we get to do. Like, one of the women in my mastermind, she lives in Ontario, and she's coming out to Alberta in the fall for her husband's 40th birthday. And she's like, let's meet up. And I'm like, amazing. Let's go and do a hike. Let's go grab high tea. And these experiences only come because we were put into community together. So it's the absolute most beautiful, most powerful thing. And yeah, it's just really a necessary thought process that the transformation has to make sense for the time that you're giving. You cannot rush through something like this. I think even more specifically with the work that you do, you can't white knuckle self-love and just hope for a good result. And for me personally, I'm also really trying to tap into the people that want to go deeper in their businesses. And you're wanting to do that with that 6-month container as well too. I've even started kind of bypassing all the social media rules around short reels. And I'm like, no, I want the 3-minute reel, because my ideal client has the time. She's so invested. She's so committed that she doesn't want to come to me for a 6-second clip. And I feel like that's also kind of what you're trying to attract too, right? Is those women that are ready to go into the depths with you as their leader. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. In such a fast-paced world, it's really nice when we can slow down with our clients. And again, it's not to say we don't have the like quick offers or the shorter term containers, because that's what people are ready for right now. But there's something so magical about being in a space together for half a year. And so for anyone that's listening, that's worried about their offer sounding like it's too long, too much of a commitment, lean into that. Figure out what is it that the client is going to end your program with, and just know that it's never too long. I just,
Mm.
after doing a 4-month mastermind with my own business coach, I signed on for a full calendar year afterwards because I just found it so valuable. And
Yeah.
like that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're not trying to have these quick fixes or these quick wins. We want the depth. We want the time together that these magical things get to happen. These life transformative things get to happen in these big containers. So I love that you have this. But what are some of the other offers that you've got?
So I mentioned just then in that segment about the inner ally mini method. So one thing that I'm very big on is that all of my frameworks, all of my methodologies have to fit into day-to-day life. Because as much as, you know, we've just had this lovely conversation about how having the time for everything is super important. And that is my first and foremost, like, radical honesty. It takes time. You have to show up every day. You have to put the work in. You have to want this for yourself, because in the grand scheme of things, 6 months for the rest of your life, not that long, really, is it?
Right.
To be this woman that you want to be, or you say you want to be. However, all my methodologies and my frameworks you could pick up and weave into your day-to-day life. So in the moments where you are really up against it, where you're thinking, I literally have like 2 minutes now, 2 minutes. The Golden Girl method, great. You can do it in 2 minutes. You can just use the principles within the framework, make it work for you, away you go. Fantastic. So the Inner Ally Mini method is like that. It's a 45-minute long masterclass, and the methodology itself you can pick up, take the 3 principles, the 3 pillars, and move them into your day-to-day life. That one's really beautiful. It's about demystifying inner child work. I feel like a lot of people look at that and go, oh, it's such a woo thing. Inner child work is so woo. We all have the inner child within us. It's a psychological concept, and it's basically your old reprogrammed self acting through the emotional body. That is what the inner child is on its very, very basic level. So that inner child remembering process happens in the Inner Ally Mini method. I then have Born to Be Bad, which is a 5-day challenge to ditch the people pleasing and release the inner badass. So again, if you are looking for something a little bit, thank you. If you are looking for something a little bit more quick, a little bit more, okay, I can bash this out in a few days. It's not that you will be quote unquote healed after 5 days, because again, I believe in radical honesty. I just don't think that's possible. It has to integrate through your day-to-day life. However, it gives you all of the tools, all of the techniques, all of these different ideas and ideologies, from people pleasing as a habit to transform it into something that you are moving well and truly away from, as opposed to being really stuck in it. You have this idea of, okay, now I can start to move away from this in situ in my day-to-day life, with the skill that a recovering people pleaser, quite frankly, needs. Like, one of the days is solely created around communication, because people pleasers, I could not communicate for, can I swear on this podcast?
Absolutely.
I could not communicate for shit. So as a people pleaser, that was such an important skill for me to build. So it gives you all the skills that you need to really start moving away from that. I have the Golden Girl method and the Golden Girl Masterclass, which is, I love this offer so much. This is what I use to essentially heal myself from chronic anxiety. This is the method that I use. And it's all about getting out of the mind and into the body. You can't heal the mind through the mind. And saying to someone who's chronically anxious, oh, just have, like, you know, sort out your mindset, have a positive mindset. Like, that used to make me cringe. I'd just clench up and feel terrible about myself, because it's not that simple. And there are other factors on a psychological level, on a neuroscience level, and on a body-based level. So Golden Girl it's not just for those that are chronically anxious. It helps you find more rooted confidence, more clarity, connect to your intuition, find a greater relationship with your body, feel more energized, leave behind burnout, all of these things that spending 24/7 in the mind puts us in a deficit of. So Golden Girl is that beautiful sweet spot to release radiant golden energy. I have Dating Your Soul, as we've spoken about, and there's a 3-month on-demand version, as well as the 6-month Let's Go All In container. And then you can work with me one-on-one as well, which is always a beautiful experience, because as you've said, the longer you work with someone, the more intimate you get, the more gold comes out of the experience. So that's what I have at this point in time.
It's a beautiful offer suite. I love the creativity of the names. It's so good. So good.
Thank you.
And you just hit a big milestone in your business. As of yesterday, you are officially exclusively online. How does that feel?
Oh, do you know what? It feels amazing. It feels a little bit scary to have left behind this kind of business identity that I've had for quite a long time. For a little bit of context for the listeners, at point of recording this, I closed my final in-person yoga class yesterday. I started in yoga teaching before coming into this mentorship space. And I mean, it feels like such a beautiful new beginning. We were saying again before coming onto this call about having this delusional level of confidence. And I feel like I'm just taking the leap going, it's going to work. I know it's going to be fine.
Yeah,
I have these wonderful things in my world. And yeah, it's a new beginning. It feels wonderful. And it's always lovely when you can welcome that freshness into your life and into your business.
Oh, it's so good. I have no doubt that your business is going to take off because the world needs what you have to offer. Women need you, and your ability to facilitate the transformations is so obvious. Like I can feel it in my soul that you are going to lead thousands of women to their highest selves and just land in peace. Ultimately, that's what we're all seeking, right? Is health and peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you have that ability to do that. I absolutely love your business. I've loved our conversation. Let the people know where they can get more of you and connect with you.
Oh, thank you so much. So firstly, I've just loved this conversation. Thank you so much for being here and for championing women in business in the way that you are, especially within this space. Yeah, it's really special. So if you've listened to this and thought, I'd love to work with you, even if you don't want to work with me, you just want to follow along the journey, you want to get a little bit of what it is I'm offering on Instagram, then you can find me at compassionate_awakened_living. Very long handle, but there is a story behind it for another day. So that's where you can find me there. And a really great through line into my world is that I have a free Telegram channel where I drop every week, bi-weekly sometimes when it's really getting quite busy in life, but I drop regular voice notes in there, like little mini podcasts. So that's a really nice place for you to begin, for you to really get a lot of these teachings, a lot of what it is I'm embodying in my own life, just straight out the bat. So everything happens through Instagram for me at this point in time. And just drop me a DM. I always love people saying hi, and I love to have a chat. So it'd be really lovely to hear from you.
Amazing. Well, we'll make sure everything is linked in the show notes for you guys. Thank you so much for this conversation and for spreading your joy. I cannot wait to see what happens in the very near future for you.
Thank you so much, Lee. It's been wonderful.